to you today about an area of expertise that you hold, which is in standard operating procedures. Last week, I was at Starbucks and I was at a table minding my own business, but intrigued by a conversation I was listening to of the team members, the baristas and the supervisor and so forth at Starbucks. And they were sitting at a table, discussing scenarios in which one employee would or could respond to an incident, a concern by a customer, an incident with a fellow employee, etc., and going through these scenarios and role playing. And I was intrigued by it because I thought, wow, I just thought that when I walk in Starbucks, these people fill my coffee cup and they go about their business. I go about my business, but didn't really appreciate the business behind the filling of my coffee cup. And I wanted to share this with you because it points to something very critical in how successful businesses run and how unsuccessful businesses don't run. And I wanted to talk to you about how standard operating procedures have something to do with how well Starbucks really does. So tell me, first of all, what your impression is about that story that I just shared.
So the first thing that comes to mind just from what you're saying, the SOPs are really what the scalability of Starbucks was. It's the difference between it and the coffee shop that's existed in the community forever, right? Was the fact that everything has been standardized and scaled across all the Starbuckses. They're going to make everything the same. They deal with customer issues the same. They process complaints the same. They order products the same. They ship them the same. And that's the reason they've been able to grow and scale. That was the desire of that company. Now, the story you're talking about, which is very interesting, is the human behavioral management that's really going on, where they're actually teaching their employees those systems and processes through role plays. And a lot of people roll their eyes at role plays. And they think they're a joke, but that is the only chance that you get to practice an SOP before you actually have to use it with a customer. So that's what they're really doing there. They're reviewing those things, and some of them are formal. I'm sure, depending on what the examples were, it was like, well, what if you made the incorrect beverage, right? That's a standard thing versus one that might be, what if you accidentally said something that offended another coworker? How do you handle that? Or those kind of things. So each one of those, they have different kinds of SOPs, whereas the one might be the recipe. We're going to go and remake it, and this time we're going to follow the recipe exactly. The other one might be a policy that we have, a behavioral policy or a communication policy or a communication framework or standards. Those are all different examples of SOPs, and I'm sure Starbucks has all of them.
Okay.
If they don't, they're going to make it. They have a team dedicated to making these.
So it's not just, it's not enough to just have an SOP related to how you make the widget. It's important to have an SOP related to management, how people are managed, and how coworkers interrelate and how people relate to their customers.
Yeah, so management process, right? What is I call it experience design, but these are all very, very similar concepts. But what is the experience of an employee? What's the experience of a mid-level manager versus a senior level manager versus an executive suite? What are those different experiences, and what are all the different management steps that occur on those things? Everything from onboarding, the first time you onboard a person in that position. Actually, it goes even back to hiring, right? Hiring is the first time you're going to start indicating this. Then through their onboarding, then through their performance management, like how often are we meeting with them to discuss their performance, and also future set. What are their future desires within the company organization or outside the company organization, and how do we help get them there? And what are all those things? And that's all in an ideal world. And then you also have your performance pieces. If they're not performing to expectation, How do we put in a performance improvement plan? What do those look like? How long do we give them? All those types of elements of it, that's all becomes an employee performance process, which is another form of an SOP. It's a standardized process of how we go about it. It has customization in what the issue is and how we're going to train them on it. But the general steps remain the same.
Which means to me that a good standard operating procedure means that anyone can walk in off the street and basically know how to run that business or do that thing or run that thing if it's a good one. True?
Well, it's not like, hey, you walk in and instantly do it, right? A lot of what people do is complex and there's nuance to it and discretion and all those things, and those take time to learn. But the idea is that a great SOP reduces the time to learn substantially.